Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm finally ready to do my full review on this bad boy. This is the CJRB Kicker, and I feel a little bad. I missed my first impressions window of time on this. In fact, on each of the knives that Russell from Artisan sent me, they came at a very, very busy time, and so by the time that I was had time to do my first impressions on them, I was way past first impressions. I'd carried and used them too much for it to be like that, and so I've just kept carrying and using them a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and do my full review. So let's talk about this bad boy. It's been quite a while since I unboxed this. It came in a package of a couple of knives from Russell over at Artisan, which I appreciate, and Artisan knives will be linked down below. And this one I've been intrigued by. So one of my favorite knives of 2020, it was high on the list in my ranking of 2020 top knives, was the Demko 8020 with the Shark Lock. And the Shark Lock is new for Demko, and it's his invention. And this is not the Shark Lock. I'm not trying to say that it's a copy of it or anything of the sort. This is different. But functionally, the way that it works is similar enough that it intrigues me. Because this one, unlike the Demko, is a flipper, but you'll see it's got this lock here. It's called the Recoil Lock. And you can pull it from the sides, kind of like an axis lock, or you can grab from this kind of ramp right here. And look at that. Oh, that was bad. You can just, if you get the hang of it, oh man, I'm failing so bad trying to do it in front of the camera. But when you get it right, you can pull down on it, and the knife comes all the way home, and it's just fun to be able to grab from right here and pull back like you do on the Shark Lock. But yeah, literally you can also grab it from the sides like an axis lock, and it does the same type of thing. So different type of lock. CJRB and Artisan, from what I understand, this is like their lock design. This is something that they do, and it's unique to them. You can also use it to deploy the knife. I find if I do it to deploy it by pulling from here, I inadvertently press on the flipper tab anyways, which is kind of funny. But yeah, from the sides, you can just kind of do the fling type of thing, and that works. So yeah, let's talk about the construction on this knife, and then I'll go through kind of point by point, and we'll talk action, ergos, carry, cutting, all my kind of typical stuff. So construction-wise, we're looking at OD green G10 for the handle scales. We do have full liners. We have a G10 backspacer. We have a loop-over style deep carry clip. Doesn't quite come all the way to the butt end of the knife, but it's pretty close. We've got these pivot collars that look like brass to me. I assume they're just actual brass pivot collars. Stainless hardware all over from the looks of it. And then our blade is D2. And at the price point that these come in, these are a budget knife from CJRB, which is the budget line from Artisan basically. I feel like D2 is a fine steel choice at the price these come in. D2 is not my favorite steel in the world. In fact, it's relatively low on my list, but for this price range, acceptable, right? So yeah, D2, G10, liners, no skeletonization in the liners or anything like that. Again, budget knife, but it doesn't feel crazy heavy for its size. I feel like the profile is actually relatively slender. So it works quite well. Let's talk carry first. Let's start there. This pocket clip functions really, really well. It's a deep carry clip. It's not set down into the G10, and the screws stick up on top of the tang of the clip. So it's not like my favorite deep carry clip in the world, but it's pretty freaking good. I've carried this in a bunch of different pants and shorts. I've probably carried it a total of at least 7 or 8 times over the last little while. I've been reviewing a lot of things, but it's made it in pocket quite a few times now. And the pocket clip works well. The profile of the knife feels pretty slim this way, which I like across here. It's relatively slim. It's kind of long, so it goes fairly deep in pocket, but this is definitely a primary size knife for me, not a secondary. And I don't know, it's a little heavy. It's not super thin. It's not like a featherweight, but it's also not trying to be. It works for carry, and the pocket clip helps a lot. That it's a good deep carry clip in this price range, I like that. Not my favorite in the world. It's no bug out killer in pocket. It's not ultra thin and ultra light, but for the kind of category that they've built this into, I feel like the carry is decent, and it's fine. So next, let's talk Ergos. Ergos might be my favorite part of this knife. It's just a super neutral handle shape, while it still has enough shaping going on to feel like it's not slipping out of my hand. This G10 has some texture on it, but not a ton. It's not overly aggressive, and I like that. I don't like overly aggressive handle materials, but it swells a little bit back here, curves in a little bit in here. You've got the kind of guard from the flipper tab, and it just works. It fits well in my hand. I find in a saber grip, I like to put my thumb all the way up here quite a bit on the spine, and that works. I haven't really had issues with like inadvertently pulling this back. That's something a lot of people said about the Shark lock too. I don't have that problem. I'm not like accidentally disengaging this lock while I'm using it. Plus, you can choke back and you can use the lock as a thumb ramp, which means you're holding it forward. So that really works quite well. And yeah, hammer grip, saber grip, both very comfortable. Draw cut, really comfortable actually. Reverse grip, very, very comfortable. I've got a great spot to put my thumb back here. Reverse grip draw cut, not super common, but it's comfortable. That works. So any orientation that I put this in my hand, it feels comfortable and I like it. The pocket clip isn't hot spotty for me. It doesn't present any problems. It just feels nice. The proportions are good. There's no jimping pretty much anywhere. I guess there's a little bit on the flipper tab so that when you're deploying the knife you feel it there, but I don't feel that against my knuckle when it's open or anything. No jimping on the spine, no jimping on the handle anywhere. I love that because I hate jimping, so that's nice for me. Yeah, so that's Ergos. Let's talk action. Action on this guy is pretty fun. It feels different on deployment than most flippers because it doesn't have a detent, not in the traditional sense, right? It works kind of like an axis lock in the sense that there's like this lock is riding against kind of a rounded part of the tang in here, and that's what's keeping it in while it's closed and what's giving it kind of a ramp to push off of, right? So it doesn't pop like a detent does, but it has this like springy pressure to it, and it works. As a flipper, it works. If I try to fail it, yeah, of course I can. Because it doesn't have a detent. But it's not hard to get it right either. And this lock is super fun. So from the sides, like I already said, you can just kind of pull it like an axis lock, and you can open and close it that way, which is nice. You can use the flipper. So there's ways to deploy it, multiple ways I should say, which keeps it a little extra fun. And this lock type too, it's one of those things where like sometimes I'll get in a rhythm and I'll just like have it right if I'm fidgeting with it, and other times I like fail on it. Not fail, but like I'll close it and it'll only go part way, and then I'll have to push it or whatever. So it makes it more gratifying when I do get in that rhythm and get it right. It's kind of nice to have a different lock type that's not just like super intuitive, in the sense that you kind of have to master it. I don't know. That can also be a bad thing, to be totally fair. If you're switching knives all the time like I do sometimes, and if you're in a moment where it's very important to get the knife out, use it, and then also close it fluidly and get it back in your pocket, if it's a difficult to master type of lock, then you don't want in that moment for it to close to here, and then when you're trying to quickly fumble it back into your pocket, you're having to close it with your thumb before you can, like, I can see that being an issue too. But it's fidgety. It's fun to fidget with, and it's different. It's new. It feels unique. It's not like another type of lock that I've felt before, at least not identically, and so that makes it kind of fun for me as somebody who experiences a lot of different knives all the time, and they tend to just have the same couple of lock types. So here's that. That leaves our last category as cutting. So as I mentioned already, this blade is in D2. D2's fine. It's not a high performance steel, but it's a budget knife, so is what it is. The edge that came on this knife is pretty freaking good. Not bad at all. I've used it for quite a bit of cardboard, some zip ties, I've cut pretty much everything that I would typically cut with an EDC knife with this. Internal packaging, stuff like that. And it's done well. The edge that's on it is nice. It's not supremely thin behind the edge, but it's not overly thick either. It feels like just kind of like in the budget realm. This feels like a reasonable, like, working knife for a person who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on a knife and isn't crazy about the hobby and isn't like super concerned with thinness behind the edge and stuff, because this knife performance-wise is going to cut pretty well. It slices fine. It's a flat grind. It's thin enough behind the edge that it gets the job done, and it's got a tip that functions kind of like a Wharncliffe. So there's a little bit of belly leading up to it, but you don't have to rotate all that far to start using the tip if you're cutting down into a box or something, compared to if the tip was up here, you'd have to rotate a lot more. But I don't know, it's a blade shape that works, and to me it doesn't feel overly special. The steel doesn't feel special, the grind doesn't feel special, the profile doesn't feel special, but it all feels solid, and it all feels like it works quite well. And the lockup, by the way, this thing has no play in it, which I find crazy, especially because this lock, if I'm being honest, kind of rattles a little bit. I think that's just the nature of how this piece moves. I don't know how they would alleviate that. But yeah, it's funny because I hear that rattling and I expect this blade to not feel so secure, and this blade is very secure. So I don't know, it feels pretty confidence inspiring when I actually have this knife in hand and I'm actually working with it. It works well. It's not a shining star of all the knives I've ever carried, but these are like under $50, I think. Am I crazy? I don't know. They sent it to me. I think these are around or under $50. I could be wrong. I should have looked that up, but it's a budget knife. It fits at least under $100, and it has a unique lock type. It's built well. The blade works. The carry is pretty good. Like, it's comfortable in hand. It's checking a lot of boxes. It's just not shining in any of them. It's not like, wow, this is like, it has arrived. The greatest new thing is here. It features a new lock, which spices it up. And other than that, like, if this was just a liner lock and had all these same features, I'd still be like, this is a pretty good knife. It would be a little less exciting because it would just be another knife at that point, I think. But because it has this type of lock, it's kind of like the poor man's shark lock. Like, if you can't get a Demco 8020 because they're really hard to get, and you want to experience kind of what it's like a little bit, this is fairly similar. Not identical, again, but similar. And so I think that's cool. So anyway, I don't know, maybe that was kind of convoluted, but I feel like the Ergos are quite good. The carry is pretty decent. It's a little heavy, a little thick, but not uncomfortable. The action is different and unique. Not amazing, but not bad. And it's like quirky and different, so that's kind of fun about it. And then the cutting performance is like pretty good and consistent for a knife in this range, this type of build. I feel like this is a very usable everyday carry knife that somebody could just, if this was the knife that was in your pocket every day, you'd be able to cut anything reasonably that you would with any knife in this size category. With this steel, you'll have to resharpen every now and then, but like, it's a pretty good blade. So I guess that's kind of it. Yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about this one, but this has been, sorry about that, right, literally as I was like ending, that my daughter needed something and she's supposed to be in bed. Anyway, thank you guys for checking it out. We'll see you on the next one. This has been the CJRB Kicker with the Recoil Lock. It's been a lot of fun to check out. And again, Artisan will be linked down below, and CJRB if they've got different links. They're the same company, but CJRB is the budget line from Artisan, and Russell over at Artisan was kind enough to send this to me for review. So I really appreciate that. Artisan was cool for doing it, and yeah, I'll link to them down below. So give them a look if you haven't seen much of what they've been up to. They're always coming out with new stuff lately too, so there's a lot of cool things to check out there. Anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you on the next one.